Hi there, I am Aly Belden, and my presentation for my major applied research project is Google Forms in the classroom. So Google Apps for Education was originally released in October of 2006, and it has been steadily growing ever since. In 2016, Google Apps for Education was rebranded as G Suite for Education. The G Suite for Education includes Google Classroom, Forms, Docs, Sheets, Slides, and many more applications. G Suite for Education is FERPA compliant, and it currently has over 70 million users. In this video, we are going to take a closer look at one of the lesser utilized G Suite apps, Google Forms. Google Forms is an amazing tool for gathering information. It allows you to create forms, surveys, and quizzes, and the results are delivered in real time. It is customizable to make it more visually appealing. Think about school mascots, team colors, and subject-specific images. So, how can a teacher make the most of Google Forms? Let's check it out. So, Google Forms can be accessed a couple of ways. You could input the address right into your address bar, forms.google.com, and it will reroute you to get you right into your Google Forms home screen. Or you can also access it through the little grid that you see when you're in Google Drive, or if you're in your email. It's up at the top right-hand side of your screen, a little grid of 9 white boxes. If you click on that, it will show you some of the Google apps icons. If you click more down at the bottom, you'll see the purple icon for Google Forms. So once you're into the home screen area of Google Forms, this is what you'll see. If you've never created a form, then this area down here might be blank, but this is where your forms and forms shared with you by other people are stored so that you can find them easily. Up here at the top, there are several different templates you can choose from, and you can expand this area by clicking here on Template Gallery. So there's several different setups here for you. And if you choose one of these, you can always customize within that as well. So back to the template gallery, let's create a blank form and look at the options that we have within a form. So the first thing you probably want to do is to title your form. So I'm going to make this form a survey. So you just want to give it a title. And then if you want your title back on the Google Forms homepage to match, you can click right up here and it will fill that in. You can also title it something else up here if you would like to for organization purposes or however you want to store your information. So now that you have your title in, if you want to customize the look of your form, you can do that here. So they have Customize Theme button here. So within this, you can choose different color schemes. So if you want it to stay simple and clean, you can just choose what color you like. If you'd like to add an image to the top of your page, they have several images preloaded here for you in several different categories. You can also upload a photo, or you can access your Google Drive albums and use your own photo in there. So let's just pick a picture and go with that. So if you select that, you will also notice that your color themes change over here so that everything stays nice and coordinated and your theme is cohesive. So once you have the form set up in a way that is visually appealing, oh, you can also change your font. I almost forgot that. So they only have 4 options for fonts, but you can change the look of your font within those 4. So once you have that set up, then you want to start adding your questions. You could add a description here. So if you wanted to explain the purpose of the survey or directions for completing the survey, you could type that in here. If you don't type anything there when you are on the actual taking the survey side of things, that part does not show. So if you don't put anything there, it looks fine. So for adding questions, we're going to add questions right down here. It starts off with one question already in place for you. And there are several different options for the types of questions you can insert here. So there are some text options. You can have a short answer or a paragraph answer for your text. So for a short answer, you would want something like the person's name, maybe their email address, a phone number, I don't know why it won't let me type correctly. So that would go there. You could also choose paragraph answer if you had a question that would require more text. To add another question, you're going to click the little plus sign on your toolbar over here. So other than text answers, you could have checkbox type answers or multiple choice type answers. So these are all options where you would provide a list of answers to be chosen from. So if we choose multiple choice, this allows the user to select one correct answer. So you can add in as many options as you like. You can also add an other option where the person would be able to type in a response. But out of these choices, they are only going to be able to choose one. If you did the same thing, but you used the checkbox option, in this case, they would be able to choose more or more than one. They would be able to choose one or more than one option for their answer. So there could be, 2 or 3 correct answers, and they would have to figure out which ones they need to choose. And then finally, there's a drop-down menu option. So same thing, you would list your different options, and then when you're on the testing side of it, you would see a drop-down menu such as this one, where they would have options to choose from for their answer. And again, on this, they can only choose one answer. The next section allows for a file upload. So if you want the person taking the survey or the quiz to be able to upload a file, you would select that. You have to tell it that you are willing to accept uploaded files. And here you can set parameters for that, such as file types or the number of files, the size of the file, etc. Then we have a section that includes grids. So there's a linear scale. So that's like a scale from 1 to 5 or 0 to 10, where people would say they agree or disagree with something, or whatever you set your labels as. So in this case, if we did agree and disagree, this is what they would see. So they would have 5 options to rank their feelings on the question that you gave them. There's also a grid option, or 2 grid options. The multiple choice one is similar to multiple choice above, where they would be able to choose one answer for each question. And the checkbox grid, they'd be able to choose multiple answers for each question. So let me click on this one really quick and show you what that would look like. So you can add several rows of questions, and you can add as many columns as you like. And then they would be presented with something like this, where for each row they would answer with the appropriate column. And like I said, with the checkboxes, they can choose more than one on each row. With the multiple choice, they would only be able to select one answer. And then finally, there's a date and a time option. The Google Forms does timestamp when a form is submitted. So this isn't always necessary, but sometimes it's nice to have that added on there. So once you have your form set up the way you want it, you can preview what it's going to look like to the survey taker. So by clicking that little eyeball icon at the top of your screen, it takes you into a preview mode. So this is what it's going to look like for the person that's taking the survey. It's cleaned up a little bit. They don't have options to change anything, but they can select their answers. And if you want to, you can fill this out and submit it, and the results will show in the results box that I'll show you in a moment. But you can, try everything out, make sure that the options that you want are there, and go back and edit if you need to. So to get back to your edit screen, you're going to click on the little pencil over here. We don't need to save those changes. Oops. Leave. Some other editing features that you have in here is if you decide you want to change the order of your questions. When you hover over a question, you can see these little dots pop up. You can grab onto those dots and click and drag and then release where you want it. And you can reorder your questions. You can also add images, videos, extra titles. So if, say you have your main title up here, but if you want to have another title before a new set of questions, you can enter a title. Sections is a really cool feature. If you want to enter a section, it divides the survey up a little bit, or the assessment. So on this end of it, on the editing side, it just divides your page up visually. But when you're actually taking the survey, it divides it into separate pages. So they would enter their information on this page and click next, and then they would be taken to the next page, and so on. So back to the editing. Another option you have when you are forming your questions. If you have several multiple choice questions that are maybe kind of similar, you can just duplicate your question. It gives you everything identical, and then you could just switch out the information you want to switch out. To delete a question, you just click the little trash can and it goes away. There's a required toggle button here. So if you are requiring that the question be answered, you would turn that on, and then that would have to be answered before you can hit submit on the answer end of things. There's a few other more detailed options in here, but those are a little more advanced for this video. Once you are have sent your survey or your quiz or questionnaire out and you want to see the results, I have a sample one set up over here. So on this one, I've already had 5 people take the survey. So here's my edit page of my survey. And in order to see the results that people have filled out, you want to click on responses. So in the responses, there's a few different ways to view it. This is right now on the individual responses, so I can see how each individual answered. All of their answers are together, and I could print these pages off, and then you can scroll through the different pages here. So if you want a summary of all of the answers, maybe you did a math test and you want to see how many people answered the same way for each question, or how many people had a variety of answers for a different question. You can see a review of each question individually on this view. And finally, you can click on the green button here, and this will take you to a spreadsheet with all of the results. And this is where the timestamp shows. So you can see when the survey was completed, and then each row going across has all of the information input from one person. So you can copy and paste information from here. You can reorder it. You can use any of the features in Google Sheets to utilize that information in any way that you see fit. So that is the basics of using Google Forms. Like I said, with the different template galleries, there are different options up here, including quizzes, which are pretty cool. So this assessment template here is a quiz that's already set up for us. So I wanted to take a quick look at that and just look at the settings for a quiz. So this already has some questions in place. Obviously, you would edit this and put in the questions applicable for what you are testing on. It shows how many points are available on the quiz. When you're adding your questions in, you can set values for how many points a question is worth. You can have it autocorrect on your multiple choice type answers. It won't autocorrect on text answers, but for multiple choice or checkbox answers, you can tell it which is the correct answer. And you can choose if you want the student to see that answer immediately, or if they would get results for it later after they've completed the test. But the settings for your quizzes are up here. And this is on regular Google Forms as well. You have these same settings, but they're a little more applicable within quizzes because you can choose things like collecting email addresses, which you would want to do in case the student forgets to put their name on their test. You can keep it restricted to your school or district's domain. You can limit it to one response, or you can turn that off and let students take it multiple times. You can allow them to edit or not. Within presentation, the students can see a progress bar for how far they are along in the test. They can mix up the questions, so 2 students sitting next to each other would not have the questions in the same order. And allow a link to submit another request. If you are letting them submit more than one time, it will provide a link at the end for them to submit again. The confirmation message is a message that pops up after they hit submit. So you could say, way to go, great job, or whatever customized message you want to put in there. And then on the quizzes tab, you can toggle if you want it to be a quiz or not a quiz. You can choose options about, like I was saying, if the students get results immediately, or if you want the results to be sent out later at a time that you choose, and you would just be able to go in and send those out later. And then other options that you can choose for your students to be able to see or not see. So now that you know how to use Google Forms and set up a basic form, here are some ideas of how you can use Google Forms in your classroom. A really common way of using them is to do a bell ringer activity or an exit ticket. A bell ringer, when the kids first come into the classroom, you could ask them questions about their homework or the learning from the previous day, and see what they remember, what they don't remember. An exit ticket, this is an example here of an exit ticket that one of my professors uses at the end of our class time, and he can kind of see how students were feeling during the class. Another idea is for data collection. This is a form that I use with my SPED students. When I have an IEP, an annual or a triennial coming up, then I use this to collect present level input. So I share this form with their general education teachers, their parents. I have the student fill it out if they're old enough and that's applicable for them or appropriate for them. And any other people that are involved with their educational process, I would have fill out this form. So it just helped me fill out their present levels on the IEP form and see the student's strengths. There is a place at the end of this form where they can fill in any concerns at the time, but this form really focuses on what they can do. You can use Google Forms for a class poll to kind of get a pulse on what your class is feeling like. This is an example for a field trip poll. You can see there were 5 options for locations for a field trip, and then it provides you with a pie chart so you can easily see what the most popular answers were. You could use it for quick grading. This is an idea that I saw on a website where this teacher would create a Google form and he would include all of his students' names in his form. So he would put in the class period, the assignment they're working on, and then as he walked around the classroom and looked at what they were working on in their small groups or independently, he could record how they were doing on that task, either by putting in a grade or putting in that they're understanding it, whatever it is. So then he could go back after class later and reference what was happening during class time. It's a great tool for a flipped classroom. You can insert a video and then provide questions, which will allow you to see which students are watching your flipped classroom videos and if they're understanding them and really getting the information that they need to from them. You can create worksheets. This would be like an example of a science worksheet at the end of chapter 4. They were studying mitosis. So there's a diagram to remind the student about what mitosis is, and then asking questions down here at the bottom. It can also be used for test prep, where you ask students questions about what's coming up on a test, and then they can see what areas they need to focus on in their studying. You could use it for your own lesson planning by setting up a form that has all the different components that you need in a lesson plan, and then compiling that information into a Google Doc from your spreadsheet that gets generated. You could use it for staff surveys, parent surveys. There are so many ways to use Google Forms. I know this got a little lengthy. I'm sorry. I think Google Forms are really cool, and I hope that you give them a try in your classroom. Thank you for watching.